Guys, welcome back to the University of Smooth. I'm your host, Nixon the Dark, the internet's leading expert on unattractive behavior. I'm going to get a little serious on you today. Don't mean to, but we're here because this channel offers you critical information in resolving a critical issue that affects a lot of you men out there. If you've been following our content, in part it is due to feeling as though you are invisible to women, invisible to the wider world. And we have talked in a few other segments about your frustration on this matter. Your invisibility problem is a name I give it. Suppose you have been putting in some effort and you're still frustrated, or you're just learning at this point, you're just taking it all in and you're still not sure, but you're at a point of real frustration in your life. I want to start with the following. You, as a man, need sex. You need to experience a woman's desire for you. It is okay to admit that to yourself. It is a difficult thing to admit that out in public, to admit that perhaps to a therapist or a family member, but you need sex. You can come here at the University of Smooth and you will feel welcomed for expressing and acknowledging, even if just to yourself, that matters to you. I hope it matters to you. I don't want to say it should matter to you. We don't deal with the word should, but for most of you, it simply does matter to you that you feel the desire for a woman and that you want a woman to desire you, that you crave that as much as you crave food, air, or water. And you're not getting it. You can only deal with substituted versions of this so much. The male sex drive is so powerful that guys will come up with all sorts of substitutes for female desire, but none of them truly take the place of a woman looking at you and wanting you. I get it, I understand it, and I impress upon you that it is okay to admit that this is a critical and foundational component of your life. Women may not understand it. I started this channel because I understand it and I understand how important it is to you. If that's still something that you're struggling with and you're not sure and you're skeptical about, that's fine. But if you can embrace that this is a reality you're dealing with and it absolutely impacts your life in a negative way, then let's proceed. I do not recommend any particular professional approach here. I am not a therapist. I did not start this channel to replace any therapeutic interventions, any medical interventions. I do not comment on them. All I will say about seeking professional help is that I would welcome any form of help with a healthily skeptical eye on what it can do for you. That's the sum total of it. Now, what do? You are getting to that point where it feels drastic. I will tell you my story, and it is the origin, so to speak, for this channel. I had reached a point in my life where I could no longer accept being invisible, being a forgotten, lost boy, however you want to phrase it. I knew I had to do something. I was never personally under any risk of committing a drastic, violent act against myself or anybody else, but to the extent that you could have all the frustration in the world short of that type of option, that's where I was, and that's how close. I mean, I felt like I was an inch away from not doing it, but being like, why does it seem like this makes sense? I was that close. I prayed on it. I am not here to give religious guidance of any kind, but I do believe, and I had reached a point where I literally threw myself at the foot of the cross and said, I do not know where to go. Within a couple of months of that happening, and again, this is not a recommendation on any religious approach whatsoever. All I'm going to say is the things that happen shortly after this critical rock bottom moment. Whether they're related, that's not for this channel to discuss. But where I went from here was I started lifting weights. Something told me, Nixon, you have to get stronger. I started going to the gym. I just started doing sit-ups to start with. Just like I was almost like desperately trying to get stronger. Like not in any specific way. I didn't even say to myself, I want to get jacked. I said, dude, you have got to get stronger. I don't even know what that means, but start with your abs, and then it went from there. It took, I think usually they say about 3 months to cement a habit, and I had tried many times before, but couldn't go more than a couple of weeks lifting weights before I just gave up. This time it stuck, and it stuck because I was that desperate. I hope that you don't have to get to that point to form and keep this habit, but this is the route that it went for me. Next, I don't exactly know how or why it came into my life, but I did get my hands on a copy of No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. I read the book, listened to the book, read it again, listened to it again, and was shocked in the most positive way possible that somebody had described my life. I didn't deal with every last scenario in detail. I would not say that every single one of them applied to me, but enough of them did that I finally understood the dynamic. I finally understood the dynamic underlying all of these issues. From there, I actually did see a therapist. I only saw a therapist for a couple of months, and it wasn't because I was psychologically bulletproof or somehow significantly healthier psychologically than anybody else, but unlike a lot of people who do end up in therapy, I wanted to get better, and I was extremely motivated to get better because I could no longer accept what my life had become. And I had a good job at the time. I had a damn good job. And in fact, after I did all these things, I now have an even better job. The third thing I did after having cemented the lifting habit and digested the No More Mr. Nice Guy material and understood that dynamic and how it was playing out in my life, I took dead aim at my social phobias. This may not apply to everybody, but for me, I was very socially awkward. And for whoever's out there listening, if we were to ever meet in person, I can tell you we would have a good fucking laugh at a bar over the several hundred awkward, cringe, blow up moments I had trying to get over my social phobia. One of the reasons I started this channel is because it is almost like an intermediate or advanced version of continuing to get over those fears. I am still working on this to this day, but having gone through this process a few years ago and studied this dynamic so much deeper than just No More Mr. Nice Guy, I found and consumed acres and acres and libraries worth of material covering this topic for men, and that's why I started this channel, because I became so familiar with so many iterations on this theme that I felt like I had something to offer. I cannot recommend you do or do not go see a therapist. I am not here to make any sort of clinical opinions whatsoever. I am putting out content based on that story because I believe it will help a lot of you men out there. What I recommend is those three things. If they are issues, any one of them, if you are already lifting, then go deal with the other two. But this will help you guide yourself towards that male protector algorithm that we always talk about. This is the roadmap that leads there. This is where it starts. I'm not a big fan of going deep into origin stories, but I feel like having put out a lot of content at this point, this one will be useful for a lot of you. So do what you can, keep following our content. If you think you need professional help, or if you're not even sure, but you're at least on the bubble, then go seek some sort of professional or clinical help, but continue to follow our content and continue to take action, especially lifting. I cannot tell you the halo effect that lifting will provide you. It will give you a toehold in so many other areas of progress that you can make. Just form that habit and stick with it, I implore you. If you take only one thing away from this, it is to lift. And of course, keep following our content. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and follow You Smooth for more content.